What's up, GameLeaper? Jizz back at it, and with the 11.14 changes revealed, I'm super excited for what's in store, and I thought I'd fill you guys in on the 15 best mid laners for the upcoming patch. What they build, why they are strong, just why you have to start playing them, and there are a couple of curveballs in here, so it's very, very important to pin those ears back and engage. Now, for our comment on the day, and this comes from Tyler, and we ain't talking one, and he asked, do the people making these changes even play the game? No. Well, they do, but they are more interested in selling K-pop skins than balancing it, that's for sure. Now, regardless of what the balance team is doing, if you want to balance your game on the Rift, it is time to subscribe to this channel for the best league content and coach on YouTube, self-proclaimed of course, and it's also time to move those sausage fingers and check out the GameLeap website. Like, who doesn't want a bit more jits? Challenger courses, guides, videos, you name it, we have it in abundance, so GameLeap.com, links in the description and comment section. Alright, so let's get into the countdown, guys, and coming in at number 15 for another patch is Yasuo, and the reason Yasuo is coming in this countdown is simply because with Immortal Shield Blow, with Berserker's Greaves, Infinity Edge, Yasuo is just a bit of a weapon. Now, it is true that because the Mana Mage mythics have decreased in price, you know, they're 200 gold cheaper, mages are actually a little more annoying to play against in lane. But until that point, guys, Yasuo is still very hard to play against, right? Like, if you're a Syndra, if you're an Orianna, any mage in the game really struggles with his mobility, not to mention the fact that in low elo, range doesn't exist, so these mages become melee champions, and that's where Yasuo thrives. With all the Season 11 buffs to Yasuo as well, he's just in a really good spot at the moment, even if his build was trash, so he comes in at number 15. Now, beating him to the number 14 spot is one of those mages in the mid lane who does struggle against Yasuo, but is just overall a strong champion, and this is Anivia. Very consistent, very reliable. Not only are you good in the laning phase, but you're also amazing in the late game, and for people who, you know, generally struggle with CSing, and that is in lower elos, all you have to do on Anivia to get every single CS is just press R and that's it. Now, you might run in some games, so wait until your jungler dies and then quickly take the blue buff, but all the changes Riot gave to Anivia, guys, way back in the preseason, you know, the fact you can proc your E's double damage off your Q just clipping an enemy champion, this is huge, and your auto attacks being quicker and faster now helps you a lot in terms of CS and that laning phase harass. So Anivia comes in at number 14. Now, this next champion, guys, coming in at number 13, this is going to cause a bit of commotion here, but after updating their Irelia changes on the PBE, Irelia, to me, like, I think she's honestly going to be really good, especially in lower elos. She might fall off a little bit in higher elos, but for novices and for players who just don't play this game a lot, Irelia is actually going to be playable now, and that skill ceiling is coming down. And I should mention here that I said in our patch video that on the new Irelia, you can no longer use your E while dashing with your Q. This is actually false because there was so much backlash to this. You can still E while queuing. And yes, even though there are some nerfs to Irelia, like your E's missile speed is down, as with your Q's dash speed, but you are getting a stronger W, which is just reliable. And something that I think is going to be really good for Irelia is the fact that when you get your ultimate, so at level 6, at level 11, and level 16, your Q's cooldown is getting reduced. So this gives a lot of compensation to newer Irelia players in particular. Like, if you do stuff up your Q and you don't reset it, this can be your downfall because there goes all your mobility. But now that it's on a lower cooldown once you get your ultimate at each rank, this is a massive mid to late game buff, and it might even mean once you've got a bit of ability haste in the build, you can just Q on repeat without landing your E or your ultimate. So next patch for me, Irelia isn't going to be super broken, but I think she's going to be a lot more reliable and consistent, especially in low elos, so she comes in at number 13. And let me know your thoughts on this, by the way. How strong do you think she's going to be? Now, one champion next patch who is getting nerfed, guys, is Akali. And what's happening to Akali, one important mechanic is that you can no longer Q while Eing towards the target champion. So imagine this, right? You've landed your E on that target champion, you're Eing in, and let's say you need your Q, okay, to actually finish the kill off. Well, this is no longer going to be the case, right? Because now you can't. So what this means is that you're going to have to E to them. So you're jumping into that enemy team whether you want to or not, and because you're jumping in there and you have to wait a little bit longer to actually Q, this might mean that target is going to survive a bit more, and you might die a bit more as well. So this is an important mechanic chain. And what's also happening for Akali is that your ultimate damage is down as well. So in terms of kills, you're just going to get less next patch, but most of your damage, most of your power is still staying in the game, and she'll probably still get picked in pro games, but she's no longer that Giga OP tier. Now, let's say you don't want to play the AP COVID-19. Let's say you want to play the AD version. Well, how about Zed, who comes in at number 11 on the countdown? Now for Zed, guys, the Prowler's Claw nerf wasn't really that big of a nerf, to be honest, because you can go Eclipse or Duskblade as your mythic. So it's not like you're a Talon where you're almost tied to Prowler's Claw. So the change that you can no longer dash to enemy minions and monsters, yeah, this didn't really impact you all that much. What's also great in the mid lane for Zed as well at the moment is the fact that Seeker's Arm Guard is nowhere near as strong as it used to be. So even though mages did get buffed, with the Mana Mage mythics reducing in price, they are still super squishy, and you now have the tools to combat them if they have shields. You can just build Serpent's Fang, and it's also great across the map too, because most champions in the game right now do have shields. If you think of Lulu in the bot lane, if you think of Camille in the top lane, if you think of Yone, if you think of Steroids Gauge, it combats so many things, and Zed Zed, just in the mid lane, has one of the highest kill pressures in the game, so he comes in at number 11. Now, starting off the top 10, guys, remember, if you like these countdowns, let us know by leaving a like down below. And coming in at number 10 is Ahri. And one of you in the comments recently asked Ahri to be buffed. I'm not really sure she needs a buff, but hey, each to their own. But yes, for Ahri, the reason why she's so strong at the moment, guys, is because of her synergy with Everfrost. Now, you can go Luden's Tempest or maybe Leandri's if you want cooldown or burst damage, but Everfrost is where it's at because you're not really that one-shot assassin like you used to be. You're more of a setup champion like a control mage who can catch enemy champions because of your ultimate and your charm, and then your Everfrost as well, which means you can lock down enemy champions for multiple seconds and set up kills for your teammates on repeat. And I also think Ahri is just great for the mid lane. Like, you've pretty much got everything, right? You've got wave clear, you've got sustain, you've got kite ability, you've got mobility, you've got setup, you've got kill potential, you've got everything. Like, there's nothing really not to like. So Ahri comes in at number 10, very consistent. Now, ahead of Ahri, let's say you don't want to play an AP in the mid lane. Let's say you want to play an AD caster, right? So someone who scales as an AD champion. Because most AD champions in the mid lane, right? If you're playing Zed, if you're playing Talon, these guys are very snowbally and you need kills to make them work. But this champion, Corki, you don't actually need kills in the early game. You're arguably the best scaling mid, so if you don't get kills, there's no pressure. And what's great for Corki as well at the moment, guys, is how good Mana Monet is with him, but also the new Divine Sunderer. Well, it's not really new, but yeah, even though it got nerfed for ranged champions, it's still super good. So if you want Divine Sunderer because you're against a tankier team, they've got a lot of HP in there, you can go with the DS, or you can also choose to go with Immortal Shield bow still, and this gives you the survivability you need in a meta where damage and CC, they're just flying at you from all over the place. And yes, because you have Mana Monet in there, you still have all the damage you need. So Corki comes in at number 9, and he's still got like a really high win rate across the board. So if you want a scaling AD mid laner, Corki is definitely the pick. Now we're going to stay with the AD mid laners, guys, and the best AD assassin in the game, just ahead of Zed, is Kiana. Now the Prowler's Claw change is a little more annoying for Kiana because her combo really was you Prowler's Claw to a ranged minion, and then you jump onto the enemy champion from there. So no longer having that interaction is a bit annoying, but here's the thing, you still have the most ridiculous amount of damage in the mid lane. Like, once you get to level 3, it's GG. It doesn't matter what champion you're playing against, like, they have to play under their tower. Okay, it might not be that OP, but the damage is significant, right? And if you're playing against a Kiana, you have to play, like, legit perfectly so you don't get killed. Like, as the Empress of the Elements, you can punish the enemy champion so quickly if they misstep because the gap closes in your kit, and the fact that you can reset your Q so you can get 2 Qs off in the matter of a second, this gives you an incredible amount of burst potential, and not to mention the fact that your ultimate is one of the most impactful in the game. So I cannot not put Kiana on this list. She comes in at number 8, guys. Now ahead of Kiana is the second AP mid laner on this countdown who is getting nerfed next patch. So for Malzahar, who has the highest win rate at the moment, this win rate is definitely going to go down in 11-14, but not so much, to be honest. So what's happening here is that your HP is getting reduced and your Q's AP ratio is down as well. But I said in yesterday's video that your AP ratio and your Q, like, really you have that for the silence, right? So that doesn't mean that much. And the base HP nerf, yes, alright, that might mean you're going to die a couple more times, but that's it. It's largely going to be the same game where you just perma wave clear, you get to level 6, you get to your Leandri spike, which is now 200 gold cheaper, and you just never grasp on repeat. So Malzahar comes in, guys, another very consistent, reliable mid laner. Now, if you want to counter every AP mid laner in the game next patch, guys, this champion is banned quite a bit, but if you can get your hands on Kassadin, the Void Walker is going to Void Walk you to W's, I'm telling you right now. Kassadin is like the ultimate mage counter, right, because of his passive. And even though you can cop it in the early game against ranged champions, you should have enough sustain with fleet footwork if you start D-shield as well. It's like you're playing Akali, and once you get to that level 6 spike at Everfrost, etc., you become not only unkillable, but also unstoppable. On top of the fact that Prowler's Claw, with that being nerfed, against champions like Zed and Kiana and Talon, you are not going to die as much, and these are typically very hard matchups for you. So Kassadin might be a bit of a surprise here, but he comes in at number 6. Now, because Gore Drinker, guys, is such a good item at the moment, I have to have one of these champions in the mid lane on this countdown. And this time, it is Lee Sin. Now, even though Lee Sin's E got nerfed a couple of patches ago, this doesn't really mean that much because, like Akali, you're still keeping a lot of your power. You're still keeping your sustain, you're still keeping your kill threat, you're still keeping your wave clear, and once you get to Gore Drinker, Black Cleaver, Steris Gauge, GA, you have so much HP, you have so much ability haste, you have so much damage that you're not only so hard to kill, but you can also one-shot enemy champions still. So Lee Sin comes in on this countdown just because he's super hard to kill in the mid lane. When level 6 rolls around, you have to be very careful as any champion, because if you get ganked, well, it's pretty much GG. And your scaling is now super OP as well, just because of how good Gore Drinker is and the ability has mythic passive. So Lee Sin comes in at number 5, guys. Now, ahead of Lee Sin, coming in at number 4 is Sylas. And I know from personal experience, playing against this champion, oh my goodness, like, it is so frustrating. He's a slippery little sucker in the mid lane, but he does a ton of damage. If you're playing an AP champion and he seals your ultimate, yeah, it's pretty much GG. If he lands his chains on you once, it's also pretty much GG. And his scaling is nuts. And I said in yesterday's video, because in solo queue, you're not going to have a coordinated coordinated team composition, what this results in is that, well, pretty much every team you're in is going to have an ultimate that is really good for Sylas. Whether it's a Malphite ultimate, whether it's an Akali ultimate, whether it's a Rumble ultimate, a Zyra ultimate, whatever it is, he's always going to have an ultimate to latch onto that can have a really big impact in teamfights, and the fact that Everfrost is 200 gold cheaper, that accelerates your scaling and the rest of your build. Sylas has to come in at number 4. Now, starting off the top 3 guys, beating Sylas to number 3 is Annie. And for Annie, I think this is the first time I've said this actually, Hextech Rocket Belt and Sorcerer Shoes. That's a miracle. The magic penetration, the dash, the movement speed in Rocket Belt, it's all too powerful. You are no longer a flash cooldown. I've said that way too much recently as well, I apologize. This is the reason Annie has such a high win rate. She's very hard to beat in lane. Maybe if you're playing Lux or Xerath who can outrange her, you can make her life a little difficult, but you're always going to be useful, right? Because of that ultimate, because of that power you have in teamfights, the pressure, the one-shot potential, it's all too much. So Annie comes in at number 3. Now, beating Annie to the number 2 spot, guys, the runner-up. Actually, before we reveal the silver medalist, it is the Jizz's last friendly reminder for you guys to check out the GameLeap website at GameLeap.com for all your League of Legends needs. Thousands of your summoners have signed up. Now, why do you think that is? To troll? To get worse? No, it's to get better, right? And they are getting better because they have that exclusive access to our Challenger tier content that is uploaded daily, by the way, up to 20 videos a week. So get signed up and join the club, links down below. Now, yes, this runner-up to the number 1 mid laner for 11-14 is Katarina. And like Annie, you build Hextech Rocket Belt, you build Sorcerer Shoes, yeah, it's pretty much over. But the other item you want is Nash's Tooth. And this really just seals the deal, guys, because the AP, 100 of it, this obviously isn't going to waste, but the attack speed as well is actually super underrated, and the on-hit as well. Now remember, for Katarina, you have on-hit in your passive, your E in your ultimate now, and you also have attack speed in your ultimate too. So Nash's Tooth is like the perfect item and one of the biggest power spikes in the game, surprisingly. And this is why Katarina for multiple patches now has had a super high win rate for a champion with a pretty high skill ceiling. And before someone mentions in the comments all you have to do to play Katarina is to headbutt your keyboard, which is kind of true, I guess. But still, this doesn't refute the fact that she is very powerful in the mid lane, so Kat comes in at number 2. Now, the number 1 mid laner, guys, for 11-14, who you have to pick is a Stridebreaker abuser, and who would have guessed it? It is the most broken champion right now in the game, and even though he's getting nerfed next patch, Nocturne comes in at number 1. So the nerf is that you're going to heal less when you auto-attack minions with your passive up. Now, this is hitting your laning phase, of course, so when you do auto-attack minions, you're getting less sustain. But here's the thing, guys, your damage is still there, so you can still perma-shove waves, get to level 6 free of charge, get your Stridebreaker free of charge, and because of that interaction with your Paranoia and Stridebreaker, the combination, the 90% slow, the magnetism, it's too much, right? Like, it doesn't even matter. Like, if you're playing an ADC and you're so fed, it doesn't matter how fed you are. When Nocturne jumps on you with a Stridebreaker, as soon as that fear goes off, which it will because peel doesn't exist, you are gone. It doesn't matter if you're 10-0. And if Nocturne does get a lead, yeah, it is over. You can't do anything against him. So those are the 11-14 best 15 mid laners, guys. Let me know in the comments your thoughts, and until tomorrow's video, where we're probably going to reveal the 15 best top laners, make sure you don't miss it by hitting that sub button. This has been the Jizz. Bye.